And welcome everybody to the cataloging special interest group. We had a few things submitted ahead of time. The first one I received was Fred talking about some new things going on with Mark Edit.
Okay, if you use MarkEdit and you're on the MarkEdit listserv, you already know this, but Terry Reese put out version 7.5 of MarkEdit, and I installed it, and it did its little installation things. And then Monday morning, I discovered that I couldn't use any of my Microsoft Office programs. I've just come up with encountered an error and needs to close, try to repair. And I clicked that and nothing happened. And I spent half an hour with my company's tech support trying to figure out the problem. And then on MarkEdit, people started saying that they were having problems. And turns out that a file, I think the Microsoft Access database engine was conflicting with everything from Microsoft Office. So all I have to do is delete that, or I think he's got a new installation out right now and everything will be okay. But it hadn't occurred to me to connect the two things. So I was completely flummoxed. And I actually need both of them because the online version of Word, for example, doesn't sort. You can't do a search on paragraph break. LibreOffice can sort, but doesn't search in line breaks. And I hate the online Outlook version. So that's my story for the week, other than the refrigerator. I'm being recorded, so I'm not going to describe it the way I did earlier.
Well, so yeah, so if you're a Microsoft Office user and you're upgrading your MarkEdit, do see the discussion in the discussion list, the MarkEdit discussion list. Thanks, Fred. And we received a couple of things from Bruce. You had mentioned you upgraded to 20.11 and are having some issues.
Yes, the sort's gone stupid. It happens when I use the inventory function. There's a few random entries, and then most of it's in order, and then there's some junk at the end. It also happens when I do the call number lookup. So just chunks of stuff out of order. I rather suspect it's not something I did, since all I did was the package upgrade. But anybody had some ideas before I go hit Bugzilla, that'd probably be a good idea.
Well, are your call numbers, do I remember correctly, they're a custom?
They are,
Okay.
but it worked fine in the three previous versions. So I doubt that it's something peculiar about my my sort sequence. And even if it is, when you're going G, R, A, B, C, something's screwed up.
If you could remember back 3 versions, did you have to make any special tweak?
No.
Just a template to use Roman numerals instead of, no? Okay.
So.
And one thing I've noticed is that it depends on how I'm searching for call numbers. We're on Elasticsearch and we're using Library of Congress classification. But again, it begins with the alpha sequence. And our call numbers haven't really sorted right when just using an OPAC search or the staff client search. In order to get them to sort right, I have to go into the staff client item search and then sort the call number column. Have you tried that?
Yeah, and it makes no difference.
Gosh.
It's something deep, and it's something that has changed between old stable and old stable. This is why I live in old stable. I expect I let the adventurers deal with these problems before I have to get to them. After 6 months, a release is usually in pretty good shape. Okay, sounds like Bugzilla is it.
Yeah, it's sounding pretty buggy. And you had mentioned too that the auto generation of authorities in cataloging is stripping the final punctuation.
That's always been true. But
right.
I went to Bugzilla to try and see what the status was, and I couldn't find it. Maybe I don't know how to look.
I didn't find anything in Bugzilla about that, but I was wondering, for example, so say if I understand correctly, say you've got a subject heading in your bibliographic record, chocolate, period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
It comes in as chocolate.
And the authority record in the 1XX field of the authority record will not have that full stop. Normally, it will just have chocolate, no
Right.
final punctuation, because to validate, say, another record will have chocolate subfield X history, full stop.
So you're saying that the authority record should not have a full stop in them?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's going to take some editing.
It's for topicals. For personal names, sometimes there is final punctuation. If it were something like, I'm going to make this up. I haven't looked it up, but say the author HD, subfield Q, parenthesis, Hilda Doolittle, final closing parenthesis, that closing parenthesis has to be part of it.
And that's preserved. But the full stop disappears even when you know, the author's name is Frank.J.D.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that sounds like a problem.
and there's a couple of forms that end in etc. And stripping the period off, that's a bad thing. So
yes.
It sounds like this is intentional behavior that has unintended consequences.
Yes.
That's going to be a long Bugzilla entry.
I definitely want to be add myself to these bugs, and yeah, if you put them into Bugzilla, definitely let us know so we can also comment on them. And
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
At least it's nice to know that my problems are not caused by my own errors for a change.
Not at all.
Isn't that wonderful when that happens?
Well, it's not good, but it's progress.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention. We had talked about relay in one of our meetings, I think this one, about relabeling the tabs in the basic cataloging editor, and the terrific Every Other Thursday video talked about it and addressed it, and I'm going to put the YouTube link in the chat. Thank you, George and Christopher.
You're welcome. I hope everybody that was interested in that got it. So
Yes, thank you. I got it and I figured out how to do it and I was so excited. Had a little party in the kitchen after I got it up.
well, good.
Yeah, it's terrific. And I love the labeling. It's clear, it's well done. Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the titles on the labels can be anything you want them to be. I just use those because they are what was on the, I read it somewhere. I think it was part of the MARC standard, said what each division was, so. But if you wanted to customize it for like the people at your library, for this is where this, you know, Sharon, put this here, you know, that kind of stuff. It could be customized to say whatever you wanted to say. So
I saw that, but I started going, okay, we have 23 libraries. Are they going to come to a consensus on what each one should be called?
yeah, that's an issue. I understand completely.
There are times when dictatorship is the right approach.
Well,
Yes, it is. I'm the dictator here, so.
Our libraries are all over the world. They're in Asia and Africa, and we're joining Europe. So it's like, okay, maybe simplify it a little bit, but I don't know how much more I can simplify it. Just learn the English.
Yeah, that's the issue, is when you put that stuff in the jQuery, it's not translatable. It's no longer translatable. So,
Not to mention the question of which English.
right.
Oh, George, I think the proper term is system administrator,
Sure.
not dictator. Yeah.
This is the advantage of being a solo librarian. I don't have to argue with the staff much.
Well, I've been a system administrator in 2 different places, and I was not allowed to be a dictator in one of them. Here I can be a dictator. So
What's the point of being a sysadmin?
I do like the term super librarian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as it doesn't come with a cape, I'm fine.
I'll take the cape.
in my previous job, I was one of the I was part of the system administration team, but I was the only one that like understood what I was doing. So it was like I was, well, this is being recorded. I probably shouldn't say a lot.
Yeah, save it for the end.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other cataloging questions, comments? Leanne has put into the chat, learning more about BIBFRAME. Is Koha set up for BIBFRAME? If not now, could it be in the future? Yeah, I remember, I think at one of the conferences, there was a presentation, I want to say perhaps by Joy from Bywater, about some future metadata standards. Does anyone else remember that?
I remember Joy doing a discussion of BIBFRAME specifically at the Monterey conference. She might have also talked about BIBFRAME at the Portland conference.
Is that with Portland where she started out her talk with a bear at the top of a...
Yeah.
I tried to understand what she was talking about, but no.
I would like to see BIBFRAME too, Leanne.
Maybe some Thursday.
Yeah, that is a great question. I'm making a note. If anybody has any resources they could put in the chat, that would be great. If not, I'll make a note about it and we'll see if we can come up with these things for next month's meeting. I know that I've attended some really good webinars about BIBFRAME and intro to BIBFRAME. So yeah, we'll see what we can find. I know that there are a lot of folks who would not miss Mark.
But I've spent 30 years trying to understand it.
I was just saying, it's just all this time and effort wasted. The question I would have with a new system is how well, can I still do Z3950 imports? Because if that gets killed by this, it's a non-starter.
Well, Z3950 is an international standard, whereas Mark 21 is a standard in some countries.
Yeah.
So, and please, those of you who know more, please correct me. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring to the group?
We're starting to work on our 856 links, and we were wondering, maybe I'm hoping y'all know, is there a way to run a report to see which ones are being used, or able to find out, will Koha like check them, or there's got to be a report somewhere that we could even just run a report of records that use that field. Has anyone else done work with the 856 links before?
There is a report. No, there is one. Hold on, let me see if I can find this. George, shouldn't you once devise something to look for a particular field in SQL?
I'm sorry, I was dealing with something else in an email. What was the discussion?
856 fields.
What
if I
about
get this
them?
right, can you run?
Can you run a report on 856 fields? Sure.
Yeah, just
you can run a report on anything.
yeah.
I have a report. I have a couple reports here that I got from the Koha wiki. Let's see if I can put that link in the chat.
Yeah, George, I think I stole a bit of code from you that was looking for a field I never used, but I did it anyway in hopes it would work on the other ones. Hold on, let me see what I can find.
Yeah, here we go. This will give a list of all the 856 fields, or bibs with 856 in it.
Yeah, I figured I could run a report to find which ones are used. Is there a way to find out about the usage? Like, who has clicked on this link?
Ah,
that rings a bell.
That's a lot trickier. In order to do that, you need to use like a third party, like Google Analytics.
No, I think I've got one.
But if you want to see, who's clicking on things in your catalog, you can set up Google Analytics in such a way that when people click on things, it gets recorded in Google Analytics. But I'm not sure how to do that.
Okay.
what kinds of things are you trying to track? Is this these journals or what?
At this point, we're just trying to figure out, okay, is it being used? We also are using, we have some records have the link in the item public note, and then others in the 856 note. And we're going, do we merge them all into the 856? Do we leave them in? I think we've discovered a rabbit hole. Do we make extra records for electronic? Or do we just put the 856 link in the regular record? Or, you know, there's so many different ways. And then journals is part of the reason we are in this rabbit hole.
Let me share my screen, because that really short little report that I put in the chat after, I put 2 reports in the chat. This little short one gives some nice sample output about not who has clicked on a link, but the number of clicks on a link. So let me share my screen. Okay, can y'all see my koha?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that little tiny short report from Jason gives this sort of output that lets me know. Now, I'd like to sort it by count. I haven't done that yet, but it shows that, for example, the bib record that has this link to an online book about Aquatic Park has been doing very well.
Ooh, neat.
I know, 29. And
That's
of course,
really interesting. I don't have that. I don't have any data in that link tracker table. So I'm wondering how this gets turned on.
let me stop sharing.
Yeah, I want that one.
Is that one in the wiki?
Ooh, good question.
I think other people would want that one.
Yeah. Yeah, let's make sure that gets into the wiki. And also, I'll see if I can remember how that link tracker thing works.
Well, guess what? There's a Monday Minutes by Bywater.
That's got to be it. All right.
So which Monday Minutes is it?
I'm looking to get a link here.
Okay.
I clicked on the link that they had here, and it's a dead link, but there still seems to be a YouTube video.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
It's not that easy.
There you go.
Thank you. The other
Yeah.
question I had is for your icons on your item types, does anyone use icons from other sources outside of Koha? If so, where?
Again, I'm absolutely positive there's a way to do it, because koha is infinitely configurable, literally.
Yeah, I've done it, but I have found that I have to keep an eye on it, because if the sources are outside of Koha, sometimes they go away.
Okay.
There's an old
Yeah, I would recommend copying them into a local file so you know that you'd keep them.
Yes.
there's an old listserv discussion about this, and somebody mentioned using the noun project, so I put that link in the chat.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. We've also had another question popped into the chat. 776s, do we keep them or delete them? I always keep them. I find they're incredibly valuable.
Yeah. Take my patient's trip to Florida.
We use them most often to link between the hard copy item and the digitized item.
Yep.
Lately.
Well, Lauren, getting back to tracking usage, a slightly different angle, but would your problem be solved by counter statistics from journals? Now, do you use those?
I don't know what they are.
Okay. Kind of off cataloging. May I take a couple of minutes? Okay.
It's all cataloging related, really.
Everything is everything. You live in Berkeley, yeah. Okay. It's an acronym, and I can't remember what it stands for, but you can say, I'm going to say, let's say Wiley is your publisher, or no, JAMA. And we subscribe to, let's say, 10 titles from JAMA. And every month they send us a report, or actually I have to download it. Gives the number of journal, the journal, and then the number of accesses of HTML, PDF, and you can do it per month. Yeah, I'll check and post a link in the cataloging list. It's in this. Hold on.
But you'd have to do this for every publisher you're
Every publisher.
Yeah, rather do it locally. So I only have one report to build.
However, if you don't, at least for us, not everything goes through Koha. So if someone clicks on, let's say, JAMA ophthalmology, and it's not in Koha, which it isn't, it's not going to get recorded. Let me see if I can do this.
And thus we're back at a cataloging problem.
Right. And also there's a, thank you, Melanie, for the helpful guide popped into the chat. The friendly guide to release 5 for librarians, counter code of practice, a wealth of information about new metrics, master reports, and standard views.
Yeah, with version 5, they broke out the difference between HTML and PDF to make it easier. See if someone pulls up the HTML and then clicks PDF. It was in previous versions, it was done in 2 different uses. Sorry, I've been in my basement too long. Trying to find a counter report to show you. And of course, it's taking longer than I thought. So.
No problem. Take your time.
I think Zoom slows down my computer so it won't show me anything else.
No, it's my brain that isn't working. I have to remember where I put all this stuff. No, that's not it. Don't mind me. Talk about something else for a minute.
Does anybody else have any other questions they'd like to throw out or comments? Talking about the different statistics or different publishers reminds me another way we get statistics and usage on our online items is that we're hosting a lot of the items that we've digitized on the Internet Archive at archive.org. And so I find it's been interesting to look at, you know, I can look at our collection on archive.org and sort it by number of downloads, et cetera, and then compare that to that report in Koha to see, you know, who's discovered, just compare the numbers of discoveries there through Koha to the discoveries there. And I'm thinking perhaps maybe do something in Koha, some sort of list or something to publicize the fact that we've got these, you know, digitized items discoverable through Koha, but I haven't, that's still a nebulous idea.
Sounds like we're getting into the dangerous grounds of training your patrons.
Yep.
Okay, found an actual one.
A record for electronic uses and print? Like, do you have two separate records, or do you just put the link in the record for your print?
So we do two separate records.
Okay.
Because oftentimes oftentimes we will catalog a digitized item or an electronic item that we don't own the physical hard copy. Okay. It's something that's so important and wonderful for our users. For example, a digitized manuscript voyage log that's in another collection, but is all about, yeah, it's like San Francisco and the Pacific Coast and everything. So we catalog that. So we find that having the two separate records works really well for us. A lot, but it really depends on your users. A lot of collections will do one record for all the manifestations. We have a one record approach for our oral histories. So I will create a record for the interview, and then on that record say, here the original audio tape is in our archives, and we have a typed transcript available in the library collection that circulates, and then we've now got a digitized interview online. So we find that that approach works best for those materials. So we don't even do the same thing for all the materials that we.
Okay, I think I have sort of a counter report. Let me see if let me share my screen. Okay, can you see a spreadsheet?
Yeah.
All right. It's odd because I'm in my house in Silver Spring and this is my computer at work. I'm sharing through Zoom. Anyway, this is from, I think it's Wiley. They give us each title here. Some of them have each title. Every single thing we subscribe to maybe 3 or 4, because then I have to go through and sort and pull them out. And each month they add a column. Okay, it's in Janta, sorry. So let's say in this month, it's probably July. Joint Commission Journal on Quality and Patient Safety was used 4 times, 5 times, 13 times. So it's a really good way to track something. Yeah. And stop share. Okay. And we use it to decide what we're going to get rid of. For example, if it costs $14 per access, it's usually our cutoff point. So if the journal is, let's say, $10,000 and someone uses it twice, we can get that through interlibrary loan. And I'm not sure how much we pay for the New England Journal of Medicine, but it's probably pennies per use. So I don't know if that would help you, Lauren, but it might. And email me, might be able to tell you how to get things set up.
Right now I'm learning. This is a whole new field. And currently some of our libraries have JSTOR, but it's not the all. We're researching what do we want to have subscriptions to. Right now, all of our links are either open access or we have an internal archive directing it to the archive. So Heather, your idea of comparing the Koha links and would be very interesting. So I'm looking forward to doing that, because that would be good to see. Thank you.
Oh, cool. I hope you can get that working. And of course, you know, communicate with us if you need help.
One more thing, and then I'll stop taking over the meeting. Lauren, you know about predatory open access journals, and how to spot them and beware of them?
Don't know.
Okay, I'll email you. This is
Okay.
too far off cataloging.
Well, the collection development touches on cataloging, of course, because it's all related. But yeah, that predatory open access journals is something to be aware of.
If everybody else friends have stuff to say, I'll talk a couple of minutes about them. But
well, Fred, why don't you give a couple minutes on what a predatory open access journal is?
okay, I didn't really have a talk on tap, but I'll try to do a summary. These are journals that are set up open access. They charge a publication fee, and they're mostly in it to make money by publishing pretty much anything. I've never actually found one called the Journal of You Pay, We Publish, but that's the general idea. If they can promise peer review in 2 days, and they or immediate publication, one journal offered to publish at a date before it was actually submitted. I don't remember which. Yeah, this is not to say that all open access journals are bad and predatory. The Biomed Central, which is sort of run by Springer, is open access, a whole series of really reputable journals, PLOS One, Public Library of Science. But yeah, some of them just looked a little suspicious after you deal with them. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I once had a letter published in the BMJ, and after that, for a couple of years, I got letters from journals saying, "Dear King F, we read your article with great interest and has been of great influence in our research." Well, this was a letter in response to the Christmas issue, which is not terribly serious, about naming clinical trials. I said, no, don't make it a common English word, please. Or I've been asked to be on editorial boards. But funny thing is, you have to pay for the privilege. We have to bring in other people who will pay. So yeah, if they promise quick access, another thing, look at who the publisher is. Omics is the only publisher recognized by the Federal Trade Commission as predatory. but there are many, many others. You see who the publisher is, see where they publish. I said if they were publishing out of an apartment somewhere in Northern Virginia, that's red flag. Well, it turns out I heard a talk by someone who, let's see, I think in Toronto, and her husband is the reputable editor, and it lists their apartment as the place of publication. So that's not as much of a red flag as I thought. But if their office is over a big lots store, or if they share a phone number with a place that sets up an immediate corporation, these are all true. Biggest thing is look for a Committee on Publication Ethics, COPE signal or symbol. It means they're trying to adhere to ethics. If they say they are indexed in Google Scholar, maybe that's not necessarily a red flag, but I'd prefer it to be indexed in Medline, or let's say Scopus, or I'm not sure. It's been a long time since I've used general databases for citation.
Well, yeah, the particular database for the field.
Right.
Exactly. And this does, in my opinion, touch on cataloging, because a lot of times we're asked to create a catalog record for an online item or an online only item so that people have, our users have access to it. And so I think it's really good for catalogers to be aware, who are in that situation, to be aware of evaluating the source.
I get hit with the request to list completely unrelated things all the time. I'm getting daily dunning requests from an outfit about oral care websites for my history collection.
Actually, the history of dentistry might be interesting, but
yes, that would be. I've got some surgical texts from the Egyptians, but yeah, no.
Wow. Yes. Oh, one more story, and then we can change the subject. A friend of mine was offered, or sent a letter or email saying, we'd like to have you on the editorial board of this journal. Well, it was something completely unrelated to what she does. So she wrote back and saying, well, I'm not the right person. And they wrote back saying, well, we're just starting up this journal, which is exactly what you in your field, except they didn't have any publications online, or none of their publications had actual articles in them.
I went to college at Boise State University, and this also happened, and it's not just with journals, but with books too. There are companies that will say, send us your poem, and we'll publish your poem in our collection of great American poems of this year. And so there was a professor at Boise State, Tom Trusky, who taught poetry, and he would have his students write the most vile and disgusting poetry you can imagine. It would be like about, molesting babies and torturing corpses and killing animals. And they would submit all this stuff and pay to get it published in these books. And then they would buy the books and, hang the pages up in the halls of the liberal arts building at Boise State University. But it was all a big class project. So it's not just journals. There's a lot of books out there too that are like this. So.
Well, we have about a little over 10 more minutes. Does anybody else have any
Can I bring it back to cataloging?
Okay, there we go.
I do have a question about authorities. And we're still on Zebra, authorities and searching, I guess. So we're still on Zebra, so I don't know if it works differently in Elastic, but is there a way to make searching an authority also search like the earlier headings? Can Koha do that at all? I have an example if you want it.
Yes, because if your earlier heading is in the the 4XX or the 5XX of the authority record. So yeah, let's see what you got.
So you're seeing my authority search results here.
Yeah.
This is the first one I came across. So we've got the J.J. Abrams, and it's referencing an earlier heading of Abrams Jeffrey 1964, which is down here. But if I do the authority search on this one, it doesn't also bring in those results. Because if I do the authority number search, I'm only getting 26 results instead of 56 results. And I actually have 205 results if I just search him as an author.
Yeah, I mean, I think because if you're clicking on that, yeah, I would question
This link.
No, I would question.
I guess
why
my bigger
you still
question,
have some Abrams Jeffrey 1964 records.
Because they need cleaned up and haven't been merged. So we would merge them, but my question is, I've got a lot of junk like that. So, and we don't have authority set up for reasons like this. Like, we would love to have authority control where we can find all that stuff just by using the authority number, but we're just using author searches when you click on the headings at this point, because we have such a mess. So I was thinking, like, if we could make Koha search those earlier headings and stuff alongside the authorized heading, that would get us more results, and maybe give us some semblance of authority control. But it doesn't seem like it can do that. So that's why I'm asking, I guess, if there's any sort of possible linkage or settings I have off or anything like that.
I would think not, because searching with that authority record number is just for the things linked to that authority record number. And you're also not going to get anything that didn't get linked to that authority record. Like if it's
right, there's
some
all
name
this...
like Shakespeare that has a subdivision, death and burial, or things like that. Those are also, I mean, authority linkage is problematic in Koha anyway.
Right. And that's kind of why we've been ignoring it for largely. It's a big mess. And at one point we had it auto-generating authorities, and it wasn't like condensing them down correctly. So we just there's all kinds of mess in there that
I've been auto-generating authorities as I catalog, and doing a daily slog through the authorities to check for problems like this. And I'm probably spending a quarter of my time cataloging, keeping up with it. So it's a non-trivial task.
Yeah, and we have 48 libraries now, all adding stuff every day. So it's not something that we can reasonably keep up with manually. So, okay, well, it's good to have confirmation that it doesn't work the way I would like it to work, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a big reason why annually, semi-annually, quarterly, a lot of places just have a contract with an authority control vendor.
It would be super cool if we could make Koha do all that stuff and not have to pay someone.
I know. I mean, I would really like the authority linking to work as well as it does with OCLC, but I think that's a pipe dream. I'm working on cleaning up our authority file and our bibliographic headings. And once that's done, then the ongoing workflow will be one for me that I've had in previous jobs, where as you say, after the cataloging, Bruce, you look for headings that are not linked, figure out why they're not linked. Do they need authority records, generate, et cetera, and authority. Once you've got a somewhat clean file operating with authority control, keeping it up is part of the necessary workflow with benefits, but yeah, it takes work.
When you said once you get it all cleaned up there, I thought you were going to say that'll help you, Jason.
It's cute. You think you can get on top of it once and for all.
I haven't all my previous jobs, and I'm not admitting defeat yet.
I'd be happy if I could just run a report to find duplicate authority records.
That seems like something that should exist.
Definitely sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Is there one in the wiki maybe?
Let's see.
Because with auto generation, you get a lot of duplication or near duplication. So a fuzzy search would be even more useful.
Ah, yes. Thank you, George.
That's what shows up in the wiki. I'm not sure what it does, though.
Excellent.
It looks great.
Got my
I'm
afternoon.
afraid to run it on my system. I don't know what had happened. Mine's probably worse than Jason's.
Well, we have a few more minutes. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring to the group?
Only after you stop recording.
Oh wait, I haven't come up with my spiel yet. Registration is now open for the koha-US conference in September in McKinney. So if you visit our website, koha-us.org, you can register. We are conducting a hybrid conference. So we're going to have an in-person conference, but if you can't make it, we'll be live streaming on YouTube, but we'd love to have you register either way. If you're going to attend online, we want to know that too. So yeah, and the schedule is up. As far as SIGs go, we did a lot of time on the workshop days to have just a general discussion for each SIG. So we'll have a block of time for cataloging where we can have just like a discussion, just kind of like we do every month. So yeah, check out our site and register if you're planning on coming.
I really wish I could, but although I am allowed to travel now, we don't have any money, so I'd have to pay for it myself. Along with
Stuck the link
refrigerator.
in the, I put the link in the chat box to the conferences page.
Thank you, George. Yeah, I'll be a virtual attendee.
I plan on being there, so.
Yay. Well, anything else? Okay, I'll stop the recording.